Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com. Today we have Ace-5 offsuit on the button. That is a beautiful hand to raise, so we make it 400. It is worth mentioning, Ace-X offsuit, particularly Ace-8 and worse, is not really a good hand. One of the biggest mistakes I made as a kid when I was 17 years old playing poker tournaments where we buy in for 10-cent Magic the Gathering cards. Everyone in the game played every ace they got. And we didn't know any different. We were just all playing what we thought was reasonable. The ace is the biggest card. You make top pair, and top pair is pretty good. And eventually I figured out that Ace-4 is not so good when it goes raise 3-bet. We called it a re-raise back then. And I started folding. And that play alone allowed me to win all the Magic cards. So anyway, don't be married to your Ace-X offsuit. They're good bluffing hands, but realize you're bluffing with them. You're not value betting. Anyway, I raise at 400, playing very deep stacked. Only the big blind calls. We get top pair, no kicker. This is a prime spot to consider checking behind. If we are going to bet, we want to bet small with everything. I discussed this concept thoroughly over at pokercoaching.com. You can go there and get a completely free 7-day trial where I will explain this to you in depth. This is a spot where I don't necessarily want to bet everything. If there are hands I want to start checking, it's going to be hands like Ace-X and King-X, because those hands can very easily call a turn and a river bet, and they're also very unlikely to get outdrawn, right? Like say I'm sitting here with King-4. What can my opponent really outdraw me with that's not already ahead? Well, like pocket sixes when he drills a 6 on the turn, so he's going to get there 10% of the time on the turn and river? It's pretty hard, right? It's also nice to have some hands in your flop checking range that you can fold some portion of the time. Like say we check the flop with 8-7 of hearts, and then we just fold to a bet. I think that's okay, especially if we know we have a lot of aces and kings in our range that can very easily defend. Also, if we goes check on the flop and our opponent checks the turn, we get to bluff with our 8-7 of hearts, and we get to value bet with our Ace-5s. So as you see, we have a lot of bluffs on the flop, and then we also have potential bluffing hands on the turn when the flop checks through. That's going to make you a little bit more balanced and more difficult to play against. If you are difficult to play against, it implies your opponents are messing up against you. When your opponents mess up, you make money. When your opponents play well, you don't make any money. And I am playing to try to make some money. So I check behind on the flop. 10 comes on the turn. We lose sometimes now. And the opponent bets 1,000. Wow. 1,000 into the 875 pot. I'm not exactly sure what to make of this big bet. Usually when your opponents bet very large in this spot, it's going to be very polarized, or it's going to be someone inferring something about my range. Usually here that I have something marginal, and that I'll fold it if they bet big on the turn and then bet big on the river. This is a spot where if the opponent's betting the turn, he definitely should keep firing on the river because, well, like the range I just outlined, I have either a bad ace or a king, and a lot of those hands will call the turn every time, but then fold the river some portion of the time. Knowing me, I'm not folding the river with an ace. So I think this is a spot where we have a very, very easy call, even though our opponent's already ramping up the bet and making it big and making it scary. Oh, what a bad river. Opponent should definitely bet this river if he's bluffing. This is a spot where I am somewhat unlikely to have a jack. I'm somewhat unlikely to have backdoor spades. The opponent, think about this. When the opponent bets the turn, if he is polarized, it means he either has 2 pair, which is great, or a set or something, or straight, or he has a draw. Well, what draws are there on ace, king, 10, 2 spades? There are queen high gut shots. There are jack high gut shots. Jack high gut shots just made the straight. There are backdoor flush draws. Those just got there. He could also have maybe 5-4, 5-2, and 4-2, but you probably shouldn't be playing those for 400 raise pre-flop anyway. So this is a spot where I don't even know what the opponent has, but unless he has 2 pair or a set, he should probably be betting here. He should be betting here with a lot of his bluffs. There are a lot of bluffs available, but he should also be betting with a lot of his nut hands. So I'm very, very surprised to see the opponent check. When he checks, should I return my hand into a bluff? Well, what are we trying to make him fold? If the opponent's playing well, he has 2 pair, right? Maybe as a set, maybe as a checked straight to try to induce bluffs. Maybe as some garbage. If he has that range, my strategy depends a lot on whether or not I think he'll fold 2-pair. I don't think people fold 2-pair to me that often, so I'm not bluffing this. I'm just going to check and expect to lose almost every time. Some people look at this and think, oh, but if you're checking and you expect to lose, why wouldn't you bet? Because that's the only way you can win. Well, I don't think we're going to win that way. I was trying to come up with some sort of like balanced game theory optimal answer, but really there's not one in this scenario. In this spot, I definitely think we're losing a lot, and sometimes you're just going to lose. You do not have to fight for every single pot. Sometimes the prudent play is to just give up. So we're going to be checking here and expecting to lose. And we do lose, and notice the opponent had the jack. So pretty fun hand, right? Notice that checking behind on the flop saved us at least some money, because if I bet the flop and he calls, I'm going to check behind on the turn and then probably call a river bet. So we end up losing one additional bet. Maybe the bets would have been smaller because remember he blasted the turn, but we would have lost a little bit more. Say he check raised us on the flop, then things would get really nasty, because if I'm betting this, I definitely can't fold it to a check raise unless I think my opponent's a nit. And then who knows how much I'm going to be on the hook for going to the turn in the river. So that would have been pretty bad. If I bluff the river, as you see, that would not have worked because no one's folding a straight. And I think I actually don't mind the opponent checking the river here, unless he thinks I have a lot of 2 pairs. It depends a lot on what kind of vibe he gets from me. If he gets the vibe that I have some sort of very junky hand like King 4, I probably would consider turning King 4 into a bluff, because I just never win there. Here, at least I win sporadically when the opponent has something like King 4 himself and decided to just play it oddly. But yeah, so it's a fun hand where checking back on the flop saved me a ton of money, or at least some money, and it definitely sidestepped difficult scenarios. And it really does show you the power of this play. So that's going to be it for this hand for PokerNews.com. I hope you enjoyed it. If you are not, make sure you check out my blog. Each week I post something fun or educational over at jonathanlittlepoker.com/blog. And I've been doing it for about 4 years. If you want to read a book of mine that's been unpublished, go back and read 4 years of essays. All right, so that's going to be it. Hope you enjoyed your time here. Good luck in your games. Treat each other well. And I'll talk to you next time.